So you're thinking of moving to Vancouver, but you don't actually live here. So how do you know what it's really like? Not every place in the world is perfect, obviously. Some places are right for some people, some places are right for other people. And in Vancouver is absolutely no different. There are some things you should know about this city before you move here so you can really decide if this is the right choice for you. And that's what I want to share with you. As a local, I know this city inside and out. I'm going to give you the real truth, the honest truth, and you got to stay tuned for all 10 reasons not to move to Vancouver. I'm going to start with one that's pretty obvious. Most of you that have been doing even a little bit of research in Vancouver have probably heard about our weather. The fact that it rains a lot. Now, the truth is, it actually doesn't rain that much. Most of our rain is concentrated in the winter months. Right now, looking outside the window, it's rainy, it's dreary, it is winter. It's late February right now. And yeah, it's been like that for the last few months. So you're going to find through the winter from roughly mid-November through to mid-March, early March, it rains a lot. It's dark, it's dreary, it's wet, and it gets cold too. It is one of the most moderate climates in Canada, but it is still Canada. It's a northern country. So we get down below zero. Today it's -1, around zero, raining on and off, and there's not a lot of sunshine out there. You can go a good few weeks without realizing that there's mountains overlooking Vancouver because of the cloud cover. And that's not for everyone, obviously. Those of us that love living here, we see the beauty in that. You grow to love it. You grow to accept it first, and then you grow to love it. But you also find things that help you, alleviate that a little bit, whether that's traveling somewhere warm for a week or two every winter, learning how to ski, getting up in the mountains, snowshoeing, just winter activities in general, and also just finding the comfort and warmth where you can find it. Curling up in front of a warm fire as it's pouring rain outside. There's something very heartwarming about that. So our weather isn't for everyone. It may not be for you if you hate the rain, if you hate the dark, and it might be something you want to look into a little more. But I personally love it. Makes me feel warm and cozy in the winters. Appreciate the summers and the absolute gorgeous weather that we have in the spring, summer, and fall in this city. Number 2, our laid-back attitude. Vancouver is a coastal city. People are a little more relaxed in Vancouver, whether that's from being a coastal city, a little bit of a hippie attitude from leftover from the 60s. There's also a fair amount of pot smoking that's gone on in our city. Maybe some people are a little more relaxed because of it, but yeah, it's just a more relaxed place, more relaxed than you'll find cities like New York, Chicago, Toronto, Calgary being. And I found some people that come to Vancouver, they find the pace of living a little too slow for them, and they miss the faster pace of bigger cities. And so if that's something that you desire, if you're not ready for a bit of a slower pace of things, then this city might not be ideal for you. Number 3, cost of living. I'm sure you're aware Vancouver is one of the more expensive cities in North America. First of all, real estate, it can be pricey, whether you're renting or buying. So many people want to be here. There's such a limited supply of land and of homes to purchase and to rent. That inevitably drives up the cost of being here. But it's not just the cost of living, the cost of homes. It's also things like childcare, things like car insurance or gasoline. All of those typically are more expensive than other parts of Canada. I'm going to be doing a video specifically about cost of living just so you have an idea, but you have to be ready to pay to be in such a beautiful place. And most of us that decide to stay here find that it's well worth a little added expense. But again, not for everyone. Number 4, touched on it a little bit, but childcare. If you have kids, if you're a family moving here, it is different than many other cities. Childcare alone is difficult to obtain. Getting a spot for your 2-year-old or 1.5-year-old after mat leave in daycare is like winning the lottery, let alone a good daycare, a daycare that you're comfortable with, and then an affordable daycare. Most daycares are quite expensive. So that can be a real challenge for people. But then it's also things like after school care or getting your kids in activities. activities are expensive and there's not a lot of spaces in them. And I'm speaking specifically about the city of Vancouver. It gets a little easier when you move out into the suburbs that typically have more of those types of services and those spots available. But in the city of Vancouver, a little more challenging. Number 5, making friends. What I hear a lot about from people coming to Vancouver is that it's hard to connect to people. People in Vancouver, you'll find, are incredibly friendly, but it tends to be a little bit on the surface. Everybody's like, hey, yeah, we should hang out. Yeah, I'm going to come over next week. But then there's no follow-up. That happens quite a bit. People tend to have friend groups that are well established, and it's hard to break into those. From what I've heard in other cities, in my experience in other cities, it's a lot easier. And what I would say is you just have to be a little more persistent in your pursuit of friendships here, and a little more calculating, like actually go out and do activities where you can meet other people and connect with people. I mean, obviously people are out there and there are people looking to make friends. It is possible, but by all accounts, it definitely is a city where it's a little more challenging than many other cities. Number 6, Vancouver tends to be something that you should know about Vancouver is that it tends to be a more liberal, politically liberal city. We are not very right-wing. If you look at election results, typically left-wing candidates win, whether it's, on the city council or provincially or federally. NDP is, takes all the seats federally in Vancouver. Now, there are pockets of exceptions, and certainly as you go out into the suburbs, that tends to change. But in the city itself, it's a fairly left-wing environment. And so if that's not for you, that is definitely something to be aware of. Number 7, traffic. Vancouver is actually one of the largest, smallest cities. So we have an incredibly dense population. We only have about 115 square kilometers of land. That's not a lot of land for roughly 5,000 people per kilometer. It's very dense and not a lot of highways. And so that makes getting around the city a little bit challenging. It makes the city much more interesting, in my opinion. We have really cool neighborhoods that are all self-sustaining, self-sufficient. You could live in one neighborhood and not know what it's like to live in another neighborhood across the city or never have to go there. And they're all really different and really cool. Lots of opportunities for different lifestyles, but we don't have an easy way to get across the city, around the city. So it could take, 45 minutes to drive roughly 10 kilometers in rush hour, let alone 20 kilometers, which could take you an hour and a half. So most people tend to want to try and live close to where they work and play and live. You kind of want to keep those in a pretty tight vicinity if you can afford that. And that's what most people strive to do in Vancouver. So traffic, definitely something to be aware of. But, every city has its challenges when it comes to traffic. And I should point out that we do have a pretty good transit system. Again, talk to people here. A lot of people will complain about it, but it is quite efficient and quite well run. And it allows you to get from outer suburbs into the city pretty quickly and efficiently. Number 7, another thing that I find a fair amount of people complain about or take issue with is economic opportunity. It can be challenging to make a good living in Vancouver. We don't have a lot of centers of industry in the way that, say, Calgary or Toronto do in Canada. It has changed a fair amount. The more, we have a significant amount of good paying jobs here in Vancouver with a burgeoning tech industry, the film industry doing exceptionally well. Tourism obviously is a big one. It's not quite as diverse as you'd find in the bigger center of Toronto. So it's expensive and it can be challenging to make money. Partially, I would say, lots of reasons, but yeah, something to be aware of. Number 9, animals. Not something a lot of people think about when it comes to cities, but we actually have a fair amount of urban animals that you should be aware of. Things like raccoons and squirrels and coyotes and bald eagles. All of these animals have adapted. We essentially are surrounded by wilderness, surrounded by forests and mountains and forests and ocean. And some of the animals, the local animals, have adapted to our city. and actually survive. And, outside of my house, I can see a coyote run down the street at 3:00 in the afternoon. And, I probably wouldn't let my 2-year-old out in the backyard as a result. And depending on where you live, bears and cougars can be a concern too. It's not as much of a concern where I live, but if you live in one of the suburbs just below the mountains like Coquitlam or Port Moody, bears can be a big concern, and you have to worry about how you put your garbage out and what you leave outside in terms of food and children, to be frank. Yeah, so that's something to think about. Another one is moving with pets, number 10. That is a challenge in Vancouver. There's a few reasons for that, but primarily a lot of rentals won't allow pets, and many apartment buildings. So if you're moving to Vancouver and planning on purchasing a condo or a townhouse, you have to worry about the strata bylaws. And one of those bylaws can often be a restriction on pets. And they, more often than not, restrict the number of pets. So 2 or less is pretty common. But also it could be the weight or the breed of dog that you have, whether you're allowed a cat or a dog at all. And then if you're a tenant, it's even harder. And as I said, most landlords don't even allow you to have pets at all. So it can be a real challenge if you have pets. It's definitely something you want to look into before you arrive. You don't want to show up with your pet and then realize how hard it is to find a place. So reach out to me for sure if that's an issue. And again, if you're thinking of moving here, call the number on the screen, call, text, email me anytime. I'm happy to chat, happy to get back to you and help you understand what it's like to live here. Now, I have one more for you, a bonus, number 11. And number 11 is a very important one if you're coming here from another country or thinking of coming here, and that is the foreign buyers ban. Now, we've just implemented at the beginning of this year, the federal government has banned foreign buyers from purchasing in Canada for 2 years. Now, that's a pretty big issue if you're thinking of moving to Canada. There's a couple there are a few exceptions which we could chat about if you reach out to me. The biggest one being obviously if you're a permanent resident or married to a permanent resident, but also potentially if you're on a work permit, there's some exceptions to the ban, but definitely something you want to be aware of. And just in general, as you can see, there's many things about Vancouver that just aren't perfect or that you should be aware of before you decide to move here. And I love helping people understand how this city works, showing them the good side and the bad side, all of it. And it's your decision ultimately if this is the right place for you. It's the right place for me. I love this city and I love sharing it with people just like you. If you want to continue learning about this city, tap the subscribe button. I'd love to show you my future videos. You can click on the bell and you'll be notified of all my future videos as well. Love to hear from you.